There we go. We're live. Welcome everybody to the G21 AGM for 2020. Obviously a different G21 for all of us. We are sitting in the office and following the regulations, people in masks other than the person speaking at the moment, and social distancing as well, so we can broadcast the AGM to you all. So just want to thank everyone for logging on and registering for the AGM, because it's a little bit different and really important. So thanks for doing that and being here with us. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're all sitting, but also across the region. So of course that's the Wadawurrung people and the Eastern Maar people, and pay our respects to all elders, past, present and emerging. The apologies, there are a number of apologies, but they will be in the minutes, so there's no need to go through all of those. We've got a few acknowledgements to make of people who have logged on and registered, which is good. We've got Frances Diver here, who's the CEO of Barwon Health, and she's going to be our keynote speaker. Looking forward to hearing from her, no doubt. A number of stories to tell over the last few months, Frances, so looking forward to that. Elaine Carbines is here, of course, as the CEO at G21. Martin Cutter, CEO at the City of Greater Geelong, and also going to give our finance report. And also I'd like to welcome Councillor Belinda Maloney and congratulate her on her election to the City of Greater Geelong. Welcome to Martin Gill, CEO of the Borough of Queenscliff, and Councillor Ross Eccles. Welcome. Congratulations on your re-election, Ross. Colac Otway Shire CEO Peter Brown, Golden Plains Shire CEO Eric Brassless, and Surf Coast Shire Anne Howard, CEO Anne Howard, and also welcome Rose Hodge, who was re-elected as well. Again, congratulations to Rose. We've also got independent directors here of the board of G21. Paddy Manolis is CEO at the Geelong Regional Libraries Corporation. Tracy Slater, who's the Managing Director of Barwon, is now an apology. And Brett Winter is the CEO of the Geelong Port. So welcome to all of you and everyone else who's logged on and virtually, actually it's not really virtually, you are actually there, you're just attending the meeting online. So welcome to all of you. So the confirmation of the minutes from the previous annual general meeting. The minutes were included in the packs and available on the website. We will be, I think we'll be using a poll, is the right thing, to just accept those minutes. I think have we got a chat function just in case anyone wants to make a question or a query? So I'll just give a couple of seconds for that to occur and see if there's any chats about the minutes. I'll get a nod from over here at some stage. I need to come up with a few jokes so I could just sort of stretch a little bit. Okay, so there are no comments, that's great. So I'm going to move acceptance of those minutes from the annual general meeting of last year, and Martin Gill is going to second them. And so we just launch a poll now for all those in favour of that motion. And we'll just take a second. Again, I should have had a couple of gags, Elaine, that I could have come up with. We've got that'll be. I think that's so. I think we've got enough votes polling to pass that motion. So thank you very much, everyone who's done that. I'd now like to pass over to Martin Cutter, who will present the financial report for the year. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to talk very briefly about the audited financial statements. But I also would like to acknowledge we're meeting today on the Wadawurrung country and pay my respects to Wadawurrung as the traditional owners of this land. And I also acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Greater Geelong community today. So my role is to present to you the G21 Geelong Regional Alliance audited financial report for the year ended 30th of June and to inform members on this particular agenda item. So I'm certain you've all read these financial statements in detail and they're always a delight to read. So the report covers obviously the director's report, the director's statement, the detailed financial statements and the audit report. Specifically, I can inform you that the financial statements outline that the entity posted an operating surplus of $26,322, which is up from a loss of $72,000 odd last in the prior year. So this positive movement is primarily due to an increase in member contributions, an increase in sundry income and a lower operating expenses. In respect to the balance sheet, I should point out that it does balance, which is always a good thing. And I also just really want to point out the introduction of AASB 16, which has been adopted for the first time, resulting in lease liabilities for building and equipment of $52,000 as current and $118,000 as non-current. In addition, it's also important to note that our cash position has improved marginally over the prior year to a balance of over $800,000. And most importantly and finally, I can advise that we have received a clear audit opinion from LBW Chartered Accountants. So on that basis, now I would like to put the resolution to the members that the members accept the audited financial report for the year ended 30th of June 2020, and I have moved that. And do we have a seconder? Eric Brasselis is the seconder. So I now put that resolution to the members. That's not what the chair of the audit committee does, Bill.
Yeah, I've got all these people texting me.
All good. So that's been resolved and passed. Thank you very much to the members. I'll now hand back to the chair.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Martin. So the next item on the agenda is the announcement of G21 elected directors. So let me just read this. Pursuant to clause 10.3 of the G21 Geelong Regional Alliance Constitution, as there are only two candidates for two positions, two two-year positions or vacancies in the office of elected director, no ballot was needed to be held. And as chairperson, I am able to declare all such candidates duly elected. So according to that, what I would like to do is congratulate and declare elected Mr. Keith Bailey, who's the CEO of G21 of the Surf Coast Shire, and Kian Selway, who's Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Deakin University. So congratulations to both Keith and Kian, and I know that both of you will make a really fantastic contribution to the board over the coming years. So congratulations to you two. So also pursuant to clauses 10.4 and 10.5 of the Constitution, the members voted prior to the start of the AGM this evening for the one extraordinary vacancy for an elected director position. There were two candidates for that position. As I said, an email went to all registered members eligible to vote at 4:45 this evening, and we were able to get people to vote prior to 5 p.m. So the two candidates for the position were Rowena Clift, who's the CEO of the Western Victoria Primary Health Network, and Matt Dickens, Director and CEO at Cryo Waste Management. Before I declare who was the winner of that election, I want to say thank you to both of those candidates. It's not, it's a bit unusual for us to have an election at G21, and I think when you put your name forward, you're not necessarily expecting to have to go through an election. So it's nice, thanks for putting that effort in and making a contribution and putting yourself out there to be on the board. But as I say, we have counted all the votes. That sounds like a reasonable thing to say at the moment, given the state of the world. We've counted all the votes, all votes, legal and illegal. Every vote has been counted. And I am delighted to be able to say that Rowena Clift has been elected as a new director of G21, and I'd like to welcome Rowena to the board and congratulate her on that. So congratulations to Rowena, Keith and Kian. So we'll do a little clap. We can't see anyone, but here we go. Okay, so milestones and the year in review. It's been a fair old year, so I'm going to hand over to our CEO, Elaine Carbines, to talk about that.
Thank you very much, Bill. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we're meeting and which our great region exists today, the Wadawurrung people and the Eastern Maar peoples. Pay my respects to those peoples, their elders and emerging leaders as well. So this year, it's a year like no other for the G21 region. Early this year, people and businesses across our region emerged from the summer break full of optimism for the year ahead. We were delighted that the city deal for Geelong and the Great Ocean Road had been signed in 2019, ensuring a future $370 million worth of region-building investments. New housing construction was booming and unemployment across the region was trending down, so great start to the year. Avalon was expanding its range of international routes, including direct flights to Bali. The state government announced the new Great Ocean Road Authority would be based in Torquay, and the Spirit of Tasmania said its new Victorian base from 2022 will be the Port of Geelong. Then, from that beautiful blue sky economic outlook, the COVID-19 thunderbolt struck. On the first day of March, Australia reported the first death from COVID-19. The nation's international borders closed to non-residents 19 days later. And the impacts of COVID crept into the community. As they did, a G21 delegation consisting of myself and the 5 G21 Council CEOs went to Canberra. Our advocacy objectives included seeking essential upgrades to rail services and road infrastructure. None of us knew at that time how devastating COVID-19 would become. Several days after our delegation returned, Premier Daniel Andrews declared a state of emergency. And as history now records, restrictions to protect against the spread of the virus changed the way we all worked and lived, and still are. The G21 board turned its attention to planning for the major economic and social rebuilding that would be needed to transition out of the pandemic. G21 joined other peak regional bodies to issue a joint statement to state and federal governments in July ahead of the delayed state and federal budgets. Regional projects to achieve that recovery were identified. We worked on the basis that locals are best at understanding local needs. A further statement was issued in the lead up to the state budget recently. G21's lobbying in Canberra, combined with the united voice of peak organisations, paid dividends. Previously promised funds for the duplication of the rail between South Geelong and Warm Pond stations and for the duplication of the Barwon Heads Road to service the Armstrong Creek growth area were brought forward in the delayed October federal budget. But sadly, at the time of writing, some needed projects remain unfunded in our region. In particular, the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub to provide wellbeing and preventative health opportunities to the disadvantaged northern suburbs of Geelong has still yet to receive federal or state funds. Like others, G21 adapted to working remotely from late March. The G21 board, pillar groups and staff have worked and met online since then and still are. However, despite the topsy-turvy, isolated nature of the year, much has been achieved. G21 partnered through its health and wellbeing pillar with the Geelong-based not-for-profit social housing provider Ciro Villa to host a project manager to begin work with stakeholders on a long-term social housing strategy for the region. The strategy will be completed next year. G21 successfully lobbied the state government to extend funding at least until mid-2021 to enable the primary care partnership to continue. As part of the health and wellbeing pillar, the partnership provides a platform for region-wide collaboration on preventing poor community health outcomes. As we deal with the fallout of COVID, this work has never been more crucial. Again, through the health and wellbeing pillar, G21 was pleased to play a key role in the development of a regional toolkit for preventing violence against women, launched early in the year. Along with other peak bodies, G21 lobbied successfully for the Australian Taxation Office Geelong staff not to be relocated to Melbourne from mid-2021. And in association with Barwon Water and Industry, G21, through its environment pillar, actively supported renewable organic projects to transform municipal and trade waste into energy and byproducts, including soil enhancers for agriculture. This exciting work will transform the way the region uses waste over coming years. We welcome the state planning approval for the proposed $350 million CORA, the Cape Otway Road Australia, world-class elite sport training and tourism facility at Mottawarri. We have provided strong support for this project from the early planning stages because of its potential for jobs and tourism. Our annual stakeholder survey found 95% of our respondents believe we are meeting their expectations. A similar percentage say G21 communicates well about its priorities for the region. That's good to know. Effective communication remains at the heart of G21's advocacy successes for the region. A new look, easier to navigate G21 website was launched last month to further strengthen our communication capability and effectiveness. And our annual way of reporting is being launched tonight. Our annual report to the region goes live on our website tonight. Please take the time to read our annual report. Thank you to Lauren Fanning, the G21 staff member who has compiled that report. She's done an amazing job working remotely from home to really illustrate and talk about all of the work that we've achieved this year. On a personal note, this will be my last report as CEO. After 10 busy and fulfilling years in the role, I've decided to pursue other interests, especially greater time with my family. I informed the board earlier this year that I would not renew my contract when it became due in August. I subsequently extended my tenure to the end of December, which is getting closer, to provide continuity during the challenges of COVID-19. It's been an absolute privilege to have been G21's CEO for the last 10 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed the role. So much has been achieved for our region through our collective work across the Alliance, of which I'm very proud. I'd like to thank successive G21 boards who've had the confidence in my leadership of the organisation over this time and giving me the opportunity to make a difference in our region. I'd especially like to thank our Chair Bill Mithen for his unwavering support and his dedication to the role. I'd also like to pay tribute to my staff, both past and present, for their talented work. I've always said G21 is the sum of all of its parts, and the staff deserve much credit for all that has been achieved. So thank you, Nada, Zoe, I'm going to get emotional now, David, Lauren, Angie, Liz, Kate, Roger and Deb. Your commitment to our work is greatly appreciated. So I leave G21 with very mixed feelings, but I'm confident of the strong foundation and reputation that has been built over the last 10 years. And I look forward to its further success under a new CEO, and I wish my successor and staff very well. The stability of the G21 board, the unity of the 5 municipal councils, support from our grassroots membership base, the 300 pillar members who volunteered their professional expertise and our committed staff combined to produce another solid year in difficult circumstances. As painful as COVID-19 experiences were for us individually and as a regional community, there have been positives. The region came together to meet the challenge. The community fabric proved strong. Our business community was innovative, and our people were resilient. It's truly been a year like no other. Nevertheless, I remain confident that G21 and the region will emerge from 2020 stronger and more determined. So I wish all at G21 very well for the new challenges and achievements ahead. So that being said, I'd like to hand over now to Bill, who is going to introduce our wonderful keynote speaker, Frances Diver. Over to you, Bill.
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks for that and for all of the work this year, to the team as well for all of the work. It has been certainly the last part of the financial year has been a very strange one. As my drink just slides out of the screen. So that's quite clever. It's like I've got Mr. Gadget arms. I'll say a few words about Elaine's time at G21 later towards the end of the meeting. But thank you for an incredible decade of work. A very strong legacy you'll leave. So it's now my absolute pleasure to introduce Frances Diver, who's the CEO at Barwon Health. So I've got a little thing to read here, Frances. Frances is a well-known and respected healthcare leader in Victoria, having held senior leadership roles for more than 15 years. Having initially trained as a nurse and midwife, Frances has worked in a clinical setting in a number of metropolitan and regional hospitals across New Zealand and Australia. Frances joined the Department of Health and Human Services and was ultimately Deputy Secretary, Hospital and Health Service Performance, charged with the responsibility for the overall performance of the Victorian public health services, including service quality and financial outcomes. Before joining Barwon Health as the CEO in April 2019, Frances was the CEO of the Country Fire Authority, otherwise known as the CFA, and I think we have all felt very safe and secure with Frances in charge over the last, well, since she started in April, but in 2019, but certainly over the last 6 or 7 months. So, Frances, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction. And I too would like to pay my respects to the Warurung people and the people of the Eastern Maar, and in particular in NAIDOC Week, it's important to acknowledge the continuing culture and the continuing leadership provided by local Indigenous people. So I also want to acknowledge Elaine as well. Thank you very much for inviting me to present. Keynote speaker sounds a bit fancy, but Elaine said to me, could you come along and have a chat? I think she called it Keynote. No, I think she said chat, and then I think it was Keynote in the email that got sent to me. But I think she said, don't worry, Frances, you can chat endlessly, and I can. So I'm sure someone will put up their hand when I've had my 10-minute share. What Elaine has asked me to share with people is my experience in the region and my reflections on the region in the last 12 to 18 months since I took on the role in April last year. So Elaine has a 10-year list of things that she's achieved and been able to talk about the amazing achievements in the last 12 months. I'm not sure I can quite compete with that, only being here 18 months, but I would like to share with you the experience of coming to the region and experience a couple of really unprecedented and unique challenges that we've had. Before I start talking about that, I'd also just particularly like to acknowledge Elaine, who's been very welcoming to me in the region. It wasn't long that I was here, and she was in my diary and in my office and advocating for G21 and really welcoming me into what is a really tight network, I think, of regional leaders or local leaders in this region, and it's been great to be part of that, and it's something I've really enjoyed about belonging to this region. So I did arrive from metropolitan Melbourne. I am a refugee from Melbourne. I think we're going to expect a few more of them, but hey, I got here first. And I arrived 18 months ago, and I have, the Barwon Health CEO role is one that I have been interested in for a long time. Barwon Health, people may not necessarily know that we've got the jewel in the crown here. We have a remarkable health service with the most expansive range of services of any region in Victoria. And that provides us with amazing opportunities to really deliver fantastic outcomes for our community, something that we've been able to do during COVID-19, which I will get to shortly. So it's a job that I really enjoy. It's been great to arrive in the region, and that's not just because I'm, happy to be out of the lockdown metropolitan Melbourne. It was a perfect time to leave Melbourne, but it has been fantastic to arrive here and be part of what the region has to offer. Barwon Health, for the last 18 months, we've had a couple of challenges. One, obviously COVID. The other, of course, people may or may not remember, but we suffered a major cybersecurity attack late last year, 30th of September, indelibly printed into my mind when the CIO walked into my office and said we needed to unplug all of the servers. So that was a major event for Barwon Health and resulted in a shutdown of all of our pretty much all of our applications, and had a huge impact across the whole region and also in the Gippsland region. And what that did to our organisation is quite interesting, I think, because whilst it was, very difficult and very challenging environment, and we had all the IT types that you could ever imagine buried in our boardroom coming up with the solutions, and we had federal agencies, state agencies, you name it, people internationally connecting to try and work out what this virus was that had impacted our IT system. What it did is create an enormous effort and energy in the organisation to really become innovative and work out how to solve for this particular problem and how to make sure that patients weren't impacted and our residents weren't impacted. So what that event did is taught me a lot about what it is to be in a regional health service, what it is to have staff who live in the region and who work in the health service, and the incredible ownership and commitment and connection to community that we have. And what that showed me is how much that people in the organisation go above and beyond the call of duty to make things work. It's partly about that. It's also partly about we're not in the middle of metropolitan Melbourne, so we can't just sort of put our feet up and say, sorry, IT's down, can everybody go to another health service? We are the health service here, and we need to stand on our own 2 feet. And I think the cybersecurity incident really demonstrated that. And despite the enormous challenges and despite the really significant impact that it had on our systems, we're really pleased to be able to say that patient care continued and that really the impacts to patients were minimised. So that was a really big event, and it taught me a lot about the health service, and it taught the health service a lot about itself, and people had to find new ways of communicating with each other. They found new friends because we had to go face-to-face for a while. Wouldn't have been very good in COVID-19, but we did have a lot of face-to-face chats. So that was a really interesting event. And then we were just recovering from that in January. And then as our infection prevention lead said, you call that a virus, now I've got a real virus for you. So then along came COVID-19. And I do recall in January when I returned from a holiday, and I'd heard about it just on my way back from my holiday in mid-January. And the first person I talked to, of course, was our head of infectious diseases, and said, what are we doing? Are we fever clinics? Where are we up to? Are we going to, how big is this going to be? And I think it was a bit like, how long is a piece of string? And it's turned out to be a very long piece of string. So it's obviously been a major impact, obviously for the whole world. But if I kind of boil that down locally, the impacts that it's had on us as a local community. So Barwon Health has, I think, been in the fortunate position because of the breadth of our services, been able to contain and manage the pandemic locally pretty well. It's, of course, affected the whole region, and we've had outbreaks in Portland, Warrnambool, Colac, and in Geelong, Biak, a couple of cases down the Great Ocean Road. So it has affected all of the communities in varying degrees and various sizes of outbreaks. But I think the role that Barwon Health has been able to play in supporting the local communities to manage and contain the outbreaks has been, really quite innovative. People may be aware that earlier in the year, around July, during wave 2, we started undertaking the contact tracing function, and we were the first regional public health unit to be established. That has been an absolute godsend for us. Particularly arrived just in time for the first colac outbreak. And what that's done is mean that we've had this incredible connection of people who know the community, understand the community, are working locally to solve the issues. And that goes all the way from community engagement to testing availability to contact tracing and supporting people who are recovering from COVID. So we've faced something like 600 confirmed cases in the region over wave 1 and wave 2, thousands of close contacts who have been isolated, numerous supports being provided to people who have been in isolation at home in collaboration with all of the other agencies. We've tested many tens of thousands of people and continue to test many tens of thousands of people. We're testing, Barwon Health testing at least 200 a day at the moment, and that's just in a steady state. So it's been an enormous effort. I think that we've really, I've learned a lot about Barwon Health in the cyber security attack, understanding the commitment and the community connection, and I think that's held us in good stead for managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, it's not all over yet. Don't think that it's all over. There's a long way to go. It's really nice now to be starting to start thinking about and planning for vaccination programs across the region. So that's a nice place to be. I know we haven't quite got the vaccine yet, but it's getting pretty close. And so it feels really positive to be able to start doing that work. But of course, all of the prevention work and all of the community work will need to continue for the next period, particularly with residential aged care, particularly high-risk accommodation services. So I guess that's my kind of reflections on what it was like to live through COVID-19. It's been a challenging time, but a time that I think in this region we've been able to benefit from the kind of integrated care that's been offered, and we've also been able to really limit the impact. So it's pleasing to see that we stayed at stage 3 restrictions. We like to think that apart from all of the enormous effort of individuals in the community, that has contributed to that, but we do think that being able to provide that local public health unit has really contributed to that outcome. The good news, of course, is that the government's now announced the rollout of local public health units across the whole of Victoria, and we've rolled them out around the regions, but also that's now being stood up in metropolitan areas. So I think people can feel good about the fact that Barwon, this region in particular, that Barwon started that program, and that's now been the model for the rest of the state, and it's considered to have had a really positive impact on the outcomes. I guess the other thing I'd like to say is just the acknowledging kind of the difficulty that people have experienced, both individuals, job losses, being restricted to their home environments, people who are living in residential aged care who've been unable to see their families, they're residents too, so we think about them as residents of the Greater Geelong community, and we are concerned for their well-being, of course. And also in particular, I guess I'd like to comment on healthcare workers and the stress that healthcare workers have been under working during the pandemic. So I guess really just a shout out to the fantastic work that healthcare workers have done in this region. There's been a great collaborative effort across health services and with other community agencies. And I think that's been an important part of our success. So whilst it's not all over and there's still work to continue, there has also been a day job. I don't just run cybersecurity incidents or pandemics, although I guess I'm getting a good sort of sideline in doing those. Not that I'm welcoming any more, but I guess there's also a health service to run. And there are so many fantastic, exciting things that are happening at Barwon Health. Huge reform of our mental health services, really kind of, I think, root and branch, like completely reorganising our mental health services, planning for the new women's and children's service that's going to be built at University Hospital Geelong, the opening of Barwon Health North, our new community-based ambulatory day centre in the northern suburbs last year, with a new one to be planned for the Surf Coast to be built in the future. We've recommissioned Building B, the building across the road from University Hospital Geelong. There is just a huge list of things that we've been able to kind of beaver away on. Lots in the planning stage, construction starting on lots of those initiatives in the next year or two, which is fantastic also for local jobs. So we think there's also, apart from running the odd crisis, and hospitals, I must admit, are quite good at crisis. We quite like them. But we don't need any more. We've done that. We've proved what we can do it. But now we're working on really the strategic and long-term improvements that we can make to make sure that we're continuing to deliver the service. So probably in closing, I would just say that that's all about Barwon Health, a bit about me, a bit about Barwon Health, lots about the fantastic work the community did. Barwon Health really welcomes working with G21 in the future. We like to participate in the broader network across the region, and it's been great to work with Elaine, and I'm sure we'll have a productive relationship with the next CEO. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Elaine, for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Frances. It's a little gift as a token of our appreciation for being here this afternoon. Thanks for all the work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frances. Thank you. Thanks, Frances. Got your gift, which is great. So I think it's fair to say that the last 6 or 7 months has been really difficult, and been really difficult for everyone right across the world, actually. And we haven't been immune to that, but it hasn't been as difficult for us in this region than it as it has for other places. And the restrictions haven't been as tight and as strong, and that's largely due to the health outcomes that Barwon Health has been able to achieve. And I think that we all therefore owe you and your team, very large team, a debt of gratitude and great thanks, because we haven't had to experience it all. And the fact that in this region we've designed something that has then been rolled out across the state, I think is just another feather in Barwon Health and your cap, and the region will take a bit of that as well. And I think that's a fantastic thing for all of us. And finally, can I say, what's been important in all of that, I think, is your leadership. And I don't quite understand how you're still standing up, but anyway, you are, which is amazing, like resilient and persistent, but also calm and in control, and clearly caring. And I think that leadership is, says a lot about you and has helped all of us. So thank you for that. Thank you. Okay. We've got some recognition awards, which is a standard thing for us to do at the G21 AGM for people, past board members and others that have played a role in G21 over a few years and have, for whatever reason, have sort of stepped off boards or stepped off out of positions. So the first is Damien Armour. So Damien was elected as an independent member of the board in November 2017. He served on the board until February 2020, when new work commitments saw him leave the role. During his time at G21, he was a member of the CEO Remuneration Committee and was the board's liaison director for the sport and recreation pillar. Damien brought a strategic business perspective to all of G21's deliberations and advocacy work. I think Damien added a great deal of value to the G21 board when he was on it. He was clear and concise and very strategic, and knew his way through the political world, which was important for us. And that advice was really valued and appreciated. And I'm sure Damien's not here with us, but I'm sure we've got a gift for him that we'll get to him at some point in time. So thank you to Damien and congratulations for his contribution. So I want to acknowledge also Keith Bailey, who left the board in July 2020 when he became the CEO of GeForce Employment Solutions, but has now found his way back on the board as an independent director as of about 45 minutes ago. So we were going to acknowledge Keith. We'll still acknowledge his considerable contribution to the board from 2015 when he was appointed CEO of the Surf Coast Shire. But thankfully for the board of G21 and the organisation, that contribution doesn't stop today, or didn't stop back in July when he stepped off the board, and it will continue on. And I know from working with Keith over 4 or 5 years, his strategic thinking, his ability to work through issues and come at them from different angles to come up with solutions is greatly appreciated and greatly valued. And I think the board will continue to get great service from Keith. So welcome back, Keith. So well done and welcome back. To Paddy Manolis. So Paddy is one of the elected directors stepping off the board at this AGM. Paddy was elected to the board in November 2016. as an independent director. During her time on the board, Paddy was a member of the CEO Remuneration Committee. She also held significant roles as a member of the G21 Regional Profile Steering Committee and the G21 Stakeholder Forum Committee. Paddy was also board liaison director for the Arts, Heritage and Culture and Education and Training pillars. Paddy's commitment, clearly, from all of those positions to G21 is very clear and evident in everything that she does. Her really calm and measured approach to a lot of conversations and a lot of discussions has really helped the board get through some of those discussions, I think. And I think her contribution is quite significant and she'll be greatly missed from the board. So congratulations, Paddy, and gift coming your way as well. And finally to Jason Schramm. So Councillor Jason Schramm joined the board as Mayor of Colac-Otway Shire in November 2018. Jason was an active and enthusiastic board contributor and strong advocate for the region, especially the Colac-Otway Shire. His local business background brought an important perspective to board considerations and to board advocacy delegations to Canberra. I know Jason loved those board delegations to Canberra and enjoyed being in the cut and thrust of it and in those meetings, and was always putting forward not only Colac-Otway Shire's perspective, but the region's perspective. And there were many meetings I was in where he was a strong advocate for local Geelong projects as the Colac Mayor. That was quite significant to some of our federal politicians. So Jason was a great advocate and a really strong advocate, and we wish him all the best in life after council, which I think has already commenced. And I now need to hand over to Elaine. Yeah, which is.
So it's now sad, but I'm honoured to be able to acknowledge Bill's very significant contribution to G21 over the last 7 years. Bill's connection with our work actually commenced in 2012 when he was invited to join G21's Addressing Disadvantaged Task Force through his day job as CEO of Give Where You Live Foundation, as we explored a new collective place-based approach to address disadvantage in our region. And out of that work, GROW was born, the G21 Region Opportunities for Work. It became a joint initiative of G21 and, of course, the Give Where You Live Foundation. Our board members appreciated Bill's contribution to the task force so much that they encouraged Bill to nominate for the G21 board. And in 2013, Bill was elected to be an independent director at our AGM. He's always been generously prepared to take on leadership roles on our board and served as the deputy chair. And since 2016, he's been our chair of G21. He also served as chair of our Audit and Risk Committee, chair of the CEO Remuneration Committee, plus was on our Health and Wellbeing Pillar executive. As chair, Bill also led our annual G21 board delegations to Canberra, where he has engaged with prime ministers, opposition leaders, ministers and shadow ministers to advocate for our regional funding priorities. Indeed, G21 and our regional community have benefited enormously from Bill's leadership. Bill is an inspirational and innovative leader, both within the philanthropic sector and more broadly across the region. He's a highly ethical person committed to working in new ways to addressing poverty in our region. I know he's very proud, as we all are at G21, of what the GROW project has achieved already, and that it's not only been recognised by the state government, it's been pinched by them and copied and around the state. In his day job as CEO of the Give Where You Live Foundation, Bill regularly uses his position to raise issues affecting our most vulnerable community members, including food security, homelessness, family violence and entrenched poverty. His strong value system and commitment to social justice has very much influenced G21's work on these complex societal problems. Finally, from my perspective as CEO of G21, I've really appreciated Bill's support and encouragement, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with him for the last 6 years. Bill is a thoroughly decent, trustworthy, caring and compassionate leader. I think as a community we should be proud that he's chosen to utilise his many skills to the benefit of our community and region. So thank you, Bill. From all of us at G21, we're going to miss you very much, but we'll look forward to seeing what you do next. And we wish you all the best for the future. And thank you for your time with us. And here's a little gift to show our appreciation, sort of G21 colours. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Elaine. That's very nice of you, and very kind words. I need to meet this Bill. He sounds like a good fella, but I'm not sure who you're talking about exactly. So just if I can just be indulged for a second, after 6 years on the G21 board, my term comes to an end tonight, and I think 4.5 years of those 6 as chair. So it's been a great privilege to be chair of G21. I've sort of got 4 key thank yous to make, if I can, quickly. I want to thank members of G21, supporters, volunteers, people who fill the pillars and do the work in many respects. G21 is a really important institution. It's a really important entity in our region, but it's actually a really important entity in the Australian landscape. It's, I think, been critical to the success of the region. It's not the only critical entity in the region. It's not the only critical point of success for the region, but it has been critically important for the success of the region. It's widely recognised as a best practice regional alliance, and that is pretty wide. I heard that a lot before I came on the board and wondered whether it was us just beating our own drum, but it was regularly repeated to me by federal and state politicians, bureaucrats, and people outside of the region. It's only successful though because of the members' input, the volunteers' input, and the connection that hundreds of people have to it. So I'd like to thank all of those people, all of you across the region, right, who have input. I want to thank the board and the current board members and past board members as well for their support. It's a really active expert board, one that was quite daunting to go on, to be frank, and but very welcoming and collegiate as well, collaborative and supportive. It's really like a team. It's a very much works in a team, and I've really benefited from the support that all successive boards have given me over the years. So thank you. An important group being the staff of G21. It's a little team, and Elaine has already mentioned them, but I'm going to mention them again. So Zoe, Kate, Liz, Roger, David, Lauren, Deb, Angie, and of course Nada. Thank you for all of the work that you have done over the time. You definitely make all of us look better. It's some would say that was that hard, but nevertheless you've made us look actually quite good. And without all of that work, that thought, that persistence and passion for the region and for the organisation, I don't think it would be anything like what it is. I know all of the board members, I know Elaine, really value all of that support and all of that work. So thank you very much. So do I. And finally, a good team needs a good leader, and we've been very fortunate to have a great one in Elaine. She's provided the organisation and the team incredible leadership over 10 years, but actually also the region. The region, there's no better representative of the region than Elaine, in my view. I think the partnership we formed has been a good one. I hope it's been a good one. As far as I'm concerned, it's been a good one. But in that partnership, frankly, I've been really lucky because I've been lucky to watch Elaine at work. I've learnt an enormous amount from her and the way she goes about doing her work. I know that it's been a tricky decision to come to leave after 10 years, but I'm sure it's the right one for you, and I can't wish you any more than the very best of luck in what comes next. And I know what comes next will be great and exciting for you. So finally, it has been a really big privilege to be a part of the leadership of G21. I've certainly got more out of it than I've put into it, I think, and I think that's a good thing. And I want to wish the new board and the new chair and soon to be a new CEO all the best. And I know that they'll get a lot of goodwill and a lot of support from all over the region, and certainly from all of those who are leaving the board at this AGM. So good luck to all of you. And with that, I think I'm going to close the meeting, and that is the end of the G21 AGM. So I think all of you people out there who I can't see, press the red button now to say leave, and we go home. So thanks very much for coming.